fake punts, because if another team sees that Ole Miss ran a fake punt, they're probably going to spend a lot of time in practice putting together a fake punt, and it's probably going to happen against the Razorbacks this time because, like Pittman was saying, if teams see that we can't punt, they're going to rush us. If teams see that we can't defend against a fake punt, they're probably going to fake it. So special teams has to be better. But ultimately, I would just say that the special teams unit was struggling during camp because of COVID, and they couldn't have all the guys out on the field. And then also because of injuries, you're going to have players that weren't developed at all under Chad Morris. You're going to have guys who just haven't seen as much experience in the SEC. So it makes sense why special teams is a little shaky, but it has to improve because you cannot be giving up big plays on special teams in the SEC. However, A.J. Reed was perfect on the day, making 2 field goals and a bunch of point-after attempts. He is looking really good, the kicker from Duke, the grad transfer. A lot of problems I've been seeing is 10 people on the field, and that's just a disadvantage from any perspective. And then the 2 deep returners is a little questionable. And also on blocking, our guys are like a good solid 2 to 3 feet away from each other. And I've seen that, in some special teams units, but it definitely could, be reworked depending on how the other team lines up against us. I think this might be a stretch, but this is probably the best special team performance we've seen all year. The special teams unit didn't cost us anything big because of the defense, really. But don't overreact. We'll be a lot better as Fountain gets a lot more practice in and we get guys back from injuries. Now for the grades, I'm going to give the offense a B-. Now I know this is pretty generous considering we struggled a ton, but the offense stepped up where we needed it. Burks having a really insane catch, Franks with a really good ball there, and I think there's a couple things that definitely could be improved with Franks and Boyd and a couple other guys, but I wouldn't overreact as we had a lot of time left, and this Bryles offense is usually fast-paced, but we adjusted because we saw that the defense was getting worn out in the third quarter, so the offense came on the field and ran slower, and I'm sure they're not used to that. I'm going to give them a B- though because we had a lot of big plays, and ultimately Franks, Burks, Boyd, Smith, and all of those guys stepped up when we needed it, and at the end of the day, if you win, you win. So if they continue this performance that we saw this week, it's going to be harder to win games. But I would expect as we get Boyd back to 100%, Burks back to 100%, it should be a lot easier for the Razorbacks. Defense, though, I'm going to give them an A+. 6 interceptions, 3 of them by a walk-on redshirt freshman. Last year, Chad Moore's defense had 6 interceptions on the season. The Razorbacks did 6 in one game to the number 1 ranked QBR in the nation, Matt Corral. Matt Corral putting 49 points on Alabama's defense. That is insane to think about that the Razorback defense played that good. I would give him an A+, 2 4th and 1 stance. They played so good, and I just can't talk about it enough. But if you want to listen to more, you can just scroll back, check the timestamps in the description below. Special teams, though, I'm going to give him a D+. I think this was the best special teams performance we've seen this year, but it was still really bad. The fake punt was horrible. We had multiple times where they almost blocked a punt potentially, but the punts looked a lot better. We didn't really return anything as we haven't all season, which is why I gave him a D+. I think this is the best performance we've seen. However, I wouldn't overreact, to the whole Scott Fountain situation. I think that Fountain's going to have a little bit more time to get players healthy and develop them into really good special teams, and I think in a couple years, we're going to have a really solid special teams unit. Overall, though, I'm going to give this team a B+, A-, like 89% if this was a test, because we beat Ole Miss, who is arguably a top 7 team in the SEC right now. Ole Miss putting 49 points up against Alabama. I think that definitely have some areas to improve on offense and special teams, but the defense looks so good that they almost elevate like the rest of this team. It's insane how good Barry Odom and everyone on that defensive front is. But the Razorbacks go on a bye week. They're off for next week. They don't have a game. And I'm actually going to be having a episode where I'm going to do a short little recap over recruiting, because we've been seeing that around the Razorbacks in the SEC. As they win games, they get a couple more recruits. So I'm going to do a quick recap over there. And the number 3 nationally ranked soccer team and the other sports like volleyball, golf, cross country, all those sports. I'm going to be doing a recap episode to tell you how those teams are doing. So stay tuned because those will be coming out this week, and then next week we'll have the Texas A&M preview as always. But anyway, whoopee.
That's all for today's episode of All Hogs Sports with Sam Stimpson. Make sure to stay tuned for the next episode covering all Arkansas Razorback sports. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe and leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Follow us on social media too. On Twitter and Instagram at All Hogs Sports Pod. Like on Facebook at All Hogs Sports and Arkansas Razorbacks Podcast. And on YouTube at that same name. Thanks for tuning in to today's episode. Go Hogs!